Hey y'all, it's Monday morning, March 31st, and we welcome you to another edition of This Week at AMG. We love to have you join us every week and to have the opportunity to share with you what the Lord is doing around the world through AMG. Well, today we are privileged to have with us Bill Parsons. Bill heads our international mission office, and he had just gone to the Philippines where he had the opportunity to visit the area that was devastated by Typhoon Haiyan, or Typhoon Yolanda as they call it in the Philippines, last year. Ever since the disaster struck there, we've had the opportunity to minister to people and to come alongside and share the love of God with them in word and deed.
Thank you, Tassos. As Tassos mentioned, this January I had the opportunity to visit the Philippines and tour the disaster area. It was a mind-blowing experience to be able to see firsthand the devastation, and it's really unexplainable by words. We flew into an area called Tacloban. It's a city of about 250,000 people, and the city was almost totally devastated. You just drive around and you see houses destroyed, people living in tents, and basically just destruction after destruction. We then piled into a van with 15 of my closest friends, and we drove about 3 hours along the sea to a little remote village. And it was really just moving to understand the full scope of this disaster. Houses being destroyed. Everywhere you looked, there were coconut trees that were destroyed, blown over or cut in half by the winds. There was houses that had been totally swept into the sea. Even concrete buildings that had been eroded back into the sea as the surge kind of pushed in and then swept back out. Almost every single structure you saw, the roof was blown off. It just for 3 hours you see this, and it's just almost unexplainable. Then we arrived at this little seaside village called Batam. It's in the Hernani area, and when we got there, this is where AMG's work is primarily being focused initially. As we walked into the village, we saw that only one house remained standing, and there was more than 100 houses in this area before. And you kind of walked along and saw the people there as AMG is working, trying to help them rebuild their lives. AMG's approach is a threefold approach. There's physical needs that are there, and so we're taking this opportunity to show Christ's love through meeting those physical needs. We're providing food for the hungry. We're providing water for the people that do not have water for themselves. And we're providing shelter for almost everyone who has whose houses were lost and devastated. In this village alone, we are building more than 100 houses to meet that need that is so evident. The second way we're showing Christ's love is meeting the emotional needs. The devastation visually is obvious, but the emotional devastation is just as severe. I got to speak with a man named Joey. Joey was a leader there in this village. Even though he was only in his 30s, he had already risen. He was a very successful person, and you can tell he is just a go-getter. And he was a pleasure to talk to. But as he sat down to tell me his story, it was just heartbreaking. Joey had a house that was newly built, and he thought it was really strong. And in this area, these storms come through all the time. It's hard for us to imagine, but they come through several times per year. And so they stayed, and they were going to weather the storm in their strong house. Well, as they started to notice that this storm was different, and the storm surge started to rise, and it started to sweep past them, they decided to go for higher ground. Well, Joey takes his 3-year-old son and his wife, and they go towards the higher ground. And Joey's 3-year-old son was swept out of his arms, and only to be found weeks later. And so as I speak to Joey, and he's telling me about this, the emotional impact, we don't talk about the houses that can be rebuilt. But he talks about his son and talks about his family and how they've been devastated. And AMG is there offering biblical counseling, putting an arm around Joey, sharing the love of Christ, and telling him of the only hope that will not go away. And so, there's the physical need, and there's the emotional need, and then there's also the spiritual need. At the time of this, there was very little Christian activity in this village. So when AMG went in, the first thing they started to do is to help them rebuild with the physical things and to meet the emotional needs, and then they started having Bible study to address the spiritual need. you and I know that only true healing can happen through Jesus Christ. And so even now, as they're sharing God's love and preaching the gospel to them daily, both with their actions and with their words, they continue to present the hope that is found only in Jesus Christ. So you say, what can I do? I'm here this far, thousands of miles away. What can I do? Well, you can continue to pray. Pray for the revival, both physically as the Philippines are built back up, and then spiritually as God's love spreads across that country. You can also give. We still have ongoing opportunities to give. We're looking now into opportunities of how to address the livelihood issues they have there. Since most of these men were coconut farmers and all the coconut trees have been destroyed, they have no opportunity to earn a living. And so we're looking for different ways that we can help them to explore new opportunities, to restart the opportunities that have been lost because of this disaster. The third opportunity that you have is you can actually go on a mission adventure trip with AMG to the Philippines. In the middle of July, we're going to be taking a team there to do some physical labor to help repair some houses and things that need to be touched up. And then we also are going to have some ministry to the children, to do vacation Bible school type ministry that will allow us to just love on them and show them Christ's love. I'd like to tell you about one of AMG's partners, Ron and Nancy Unruh. Ron and Nancy have been ministering in the Philippines since 2001 when they took their first mission adventure trip to the Philippines. And almost every year since then, they've been going back to show Christ's love in very tangible ways. You know, they're fixing a place up, helping to do some construction, or maybe it's just playing with kids and showing them the love that very few of them get to see. Because of Ron's investment in the Philippines, he was immediately struck whenever the typhoon hit to say, what can I do? And he was one of the first people, one of the first foreigners to get in there, and he went in November of last year, and taking chainsaws and other supplies to go in and actually physically work side by side with all our national partners there and the people that have been affected to help rebuild their lives. I say this because the opportunity that you have may start here, and it may start because of this reason, but who knows what God has with that, and who knows what God will do with you and in the Philippines in the future.
Well, now you have a first-hand account of some of the efforts that are ongoing in the Philippines to help the people in need. We are extremely grateful for all our partners and supporters who have contributed to this need. So thank you everyone for coming alongside and supporting this effort. Please continue to pray because this is a long-term relief effort, and there is going to be a continuing engagement for the months to come to continue to minister in the lives of people who have been devastated. Well, that's it, and we hope to see you next week, this week at AMG.